One of the best ways to judge which way is going to happen with the, as far as the direction of, say, for instance, the industrial metals or the industrial materials, which direction they're going to take is news upon the euro. And this is a chart going back to 2005, actually before 2005. But it shows like when the euro was really rising, and back in 2008, before we had the financial crisis, um, the typical pundit, I don't know what you want to call them, they would be saying, buy the euro, buy the euro, buy the euro, the dollar's going to crash. See the curve. Look what's going on. Now, quite obviously, that's not what happened. And a typical little double top here, but that's one thing I kind of got on this for, the YouTube, because I want to throw some of my comments in here, but it does keep me more tuned up for making my own personal decisions. And I'll probably throw a car video on there, because actually those are the only things that actually generate money as far as YouTube goes. But I noticed that there's a lot of cheerleaders out there, but I guess what, let them do their own thing. They just let them do whatever they're doing. But I'm trying to weigh a decision on what timing I want to do for a heavier bet on triple leveraged silver. And I think a lot of it's going to be based upon what goes on with the euro. So I'm looking for news that's coming up. And there's various news that are coming up. But this is something I want to point out to, like, at this time, platinum was twice as much as gold around this period of time. Palladium was really moving up. I forgot what it was, but then it crashed down to like 160 or something like that. It's same thing, all at the same time. The oil crashed, the palladium crashed, the silver crashed, the euro crashed, platinum crashed, gold crashed, but not as much. Gold wasn't as affected as badly. But, this is something, during this time period, though, in 2008, nobody could imagine any of this stuff, It's like 2007. They start seeing the housing market unravel, but nobody's putting anything together. Like, nobody's really looking at, nobody's saying too much. Very few were, but I'm sure some people got these movements right. They were shorting the market when they should have, and it wasn't just pure inside information. It was like just knowing what kind of information to look at. As far as the euro today, now you look at this last movement up, all the good news on the euro. That is why I went into double leverage silver, and I didn't catch this whole move. But I don't know what the hell it's going to do. And actually, I should have held on a little bit more, because, but I don't know this for a fact. I mean, I caught most of this move, which was okay. And actually, if I knew this move was coming up, I would have bet. Obviously, you don't know everything 100%. But my bet was the euro was going to be okay, and that was going to bring up silver and oil. So, what's coming up next week, there might be some slight stumbling block. Nothing big, but I think that's going to cause the euro and silver to kind of go sideways. Silver might retreat a slight amount. So I don't really want to buy into the velocity shares right now. Now, one thing I'm thinking about doing, but I hate this stuff, because as far as actual buy and sell, I never really made money on this stuff that much. And I'm always thinking about getting in the euro, because it might have a little bit more, like $1 or $2 more to go. Just double leverage. But I'm really kind of debating this stuff. Now, there's a couple stories on the horizon. I'm thinking oil's going to pull back pretty soon. I think. It depends on what happens in the Middle East, because nobody knows for sure. And these technical resistance points, they do mean things, but obviously they don't mean everything. They're not the only factor. So obviously, if say Iran, if this is a resistance point and Iran actually does close the Straits of Hormuz, well, guess what? That resistance point is going to be like nothing. It's going to be like air. It's going to go right through it like, absolutely nothing. So these type of events, actually, I can't predict, but sometimes I can predict some things because watching the news stories does sometimes equate to getting you some more money. And so I do watch these news stories. That's why I don't really care about the news stories other than how it's going to affect, the financial markets, which can be translated into money. There's a few things on the horizon here. They have coming up here, there's going to be another meeting, and Treasury Secretary Timmy Geithner said Friday the United States this was about the Strategic Oil Reserve, but this is something else that could bring down the oil, and they don't plan to do this right away, but like they're starting to talk about it. Treasury Secretary Timmy Geithner said on Friday the United States is considering a release from its strategic oil reserves as rising tensions between Iran and the West over its disputed nuclear program fueled the rise in oil prices. So the Brent went over 125 a barrel on Friday, but the United States did not push for a release of strategic reserves yet. So this is going to come up pretty soon. Obviously, that's why it's not going to go up too much more before it gets hammered down. Yeah, that's why I'm not going to make a big bet if I go in there for like a quick maneuver of a couple percent, but I'll take it if I get it. As far as this goes on, is another story here, and this might deflate the oil market a little bit because actually it's psychological. Because you think about it, you really don't know what's going on as far as trade between Iran and India and China. There's a lot of overland pipelines, and there's a lot of stuff they could trade oil for other goods. So the actual business could still be going on despite all the sanctions. So, and that also contributes to this global supply of oil in the market. So a lot of this is kind of like psychological. It's not exactly, the supplies really haven't been cut off so much as people are thinking. It's more like a big worry thing. A Newswire cited unnamed industry sources. I like how they say that, unnamed industry sources said that Saudi Arabia had increased exports to just over 9 million barrels a day last week, compared with an average of about 7.5 million in January. Reuters wasn't clear if the export numbers were at the start of a longer steady supply addition or a temporary move. Now, the Saudis are pretty much in with the West. The Saudi family is protected by the West. So they're going to keep pumping up, the oil and as much as they possibly can. I personally don't think they can make up for any, major shortfall. But, this type of news could actually slow down the oil market because this is a brand new story. And then he talks again about the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Oil Reserve has enough capacity to cover the U.S. needs for about 40 days. But you know what? You don't think of it that way. That's 40 days if there's absolutely no oil coming on. But say, for instance, there was a 5% drop in oil. So you could take 40 days times 20. So, in other words, if you could cover a 5% shortfall in oil for 800 days, which is like almost 3 years, right? So, you can look at it that way too. It's not like there's a lot of oil being, like the U.S. supplies about half its own oil as it is, and then there's a lot of our biggest importer is from Canada and Mexico. So, as far as the global supplies being down, the U.S. is actually awash in oil, and the WTI, that's for the reason the West Texas is actually cheaper than the Brent. But what they're charging you at the pump is this thing called light Louisiana crude, and light Louisiana crude is what's imported into the Gulf refineries, and that price is actually the same as the Brent. So even though they get the stuff cheaper at the refineries, they still charge the end user in the United States the Brent price. So it is a racket. It is a serious racket. Um, so I don't know if I'm going to jump into this for a very small bit. If I see a little bit of a pullback, I will for a small bet because I think it's going to go up just a little bit more. But I've been waiting for a pullback, and there's been no pullback. This thing has just been flying up. But I did catch some of the silver, so that was all right. Now, as far as the euro going up, I'm going to watch both this and the silver. I don't think I want to jump into the silver tomorrow morning. I don't think so. It depends on what the price action is tonight. If it looks like things are going down again, maybe I will. I don't know. Maybe I will. It depends. And just like everything, it's kind of a guess. But I think I might want to get into a harder position on triple long silver because I think we're going to go into these prices are going to go up probably to about. I think silver's going to clear 38, no problem. And it's not going to be like a long wait. So, say for instance this goes down to 34 something. I'll get into triple leverage pretty hard. It clears to 38. That's a 10% move, but on triple leverage, it's a lot more than 10%. So that would be some money, and I would take that. Now, something else I want to point out in this thing as far as this palladium. This palladium dropped $10, right? And I'm looking at this fund here, and I don't understand it. That's why I'm not going to buy it. It's double leverage palladium. Looking from this was on Thursday. The price was 63.05, and then it's like one, some activity here at the beginning of the day, the end of the day, and then it looks like Friday there was I don't know. I think this was at 2:25 p.m. It's like showing that's the only volume, like practically no volume. And the price is 63.29. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't understand this. That's why I'm not going to buy it, because it moved down 1.39%. Yet on this, it moved up. So I'm not touching this fund. I'm not touching this fund. I don't understand how this works. Even though, it's very sparsely traded, I don't like it. But I think I am thinking that palladium is going to do extremely well this year. And I would like to use this fund, if it had more activity in it and it was actually following the palladium like I think it should be. I don't understand this. I mean, this should be a drop. This should be a drop. This should be down to like 61 something versus 63.29. I don't understand why that's like that. Now, as far as the Velocity shares, I made money on it, but I sold it too soon, and the silver was still going up. Now, the price of silver starts. If I don't like waiting. I'm anxious to jump back in and make money. Obviously, that's a normal human trait, but I think I probably should wait this out a little bit, because I don't think silver's just going to take off to the next price point this week. That's my guess. But I think a lot of it is going to depend upon the Euro news. So I might do the oil a little bit if there's a slight pullback due to some of the news about possible rumors that they're releasing from the strategic oil reserves, and there's also going to be Saudi Arabia putting out more to make up for the Iranian oil. Now, I'm not going to do a major bet on that. I'm not even going to do triple levers. I'm going to do UCO. But it's going to be small. If it gets me any kind of money, I'll just sell it. That's what I'll do. But I don't, it's just something that I'm figuring, well, if I deduce it's going to do this, I should act upon it. And that's exactly my logic behind it. So, there's some things I should have acted upon before, which was I wasn't aware of triple leverage silver. I would have acted upon. I was almost acted upon AGQ at the end of the year when I was buying some more physical and PSLV. in retrospect, I really hate buying at PSLV, big time. I don't like that fund at all, at all. I hate it. And if I'm pretty decent at picking out where the bottoms are at silver, I should be using AGQ. I mean, as far as electronic funds go. Um, so I think that when this comes up with the euro again, now if this thing looks like it's going to start moving up, silver's not. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to look at what's going to happen, say tonight, and it could be a minor buy into silver toe. Depends. If it goes down and I see the euro go up, I'm probably going to buy it. But I'll probably dump it fast if there's a gain, because I realize number one rule is recognize gains is the whole game. That's you're actually got to be pulling in the dollars and sucking out the money first. That's really what it counts to. Sometimes it pays to hold, but I don't know if I want to get in there just yet, because but this like I said, this velocity series is kind of a different animal. Like, say for instance, silver even was sitting at 35 for a week or two. This fund will start dropping. It'll start dropping. So I mean, it's not like you're trying to buy the spot price of silver. You're trying to buy the best price for this fund. So it's a little bit different animal. So that's one other thing to consider.